Hey everyone, welcome back to LightHearted. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Britton. Today we have a super special guest episode, but we also have terrible news.
Unfortunately, when we filmed the guest episode recently, we had some technical difficulties and our audio did not pick up.
But only for part one, just for the intro.
Yeah, just for the intro. Everything else is fine.
We're still just going to give you her bio. We asked our guest her 3 questions that we ask every guest. And so we're going to read her answers to you. We feel so sad that the audio stopped working, but the rest of it's great. It was literally just the intro. The main part of the episode's amazing. So keep listening and let's talk about how awesome our guest is. All right, let's get into it. Today, our special guest is Christina Ward. Christina is a wife, a homeschool mother, a Christian, a small business owner, and a content creator. Christina is obviously not right here with us right now, but we just want to say, we were so thankful to have her on. She was so much fun to talk to. So as you guys know, question 1 is, if you could go back in time and change something you had control over, what would you change? She said, I had my daughter really young. I was in my senior year of high school, and I'm, of course, so thankful to have her. She's like my little best friend. I loved that when she said that. So I wouldn't change it. I just wouldn't encourage her to start that young.
Love that.
Love it.
The next question is, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be? Her answer was, don't try and grow up so fast. She said even when she was 9 years old, she wanted to be just like her sister-in-law, Carly. She said she wanted to be in all the adult conversations, and she just wishes she could tell herself to stay in the phase that she's in.
I think that's such good advice.
It is good advice.
I feel like I need to hear that, at every point in my life.
Yeah.
And our third and final question that you guys know is, if you could ask future you one question, either what would you ask or would you ask them anything? She said, I think when I look at myself when I'm older, I just want to know, did I grow out of procrastination?
That was so funny.
It was so funny. And so real.
So real.
I was like, yeah, that's a great question to ask.
Do any of us ever grow out of that?
I hope so. I like to think maybe one day.
Great question.
And then into her serious answer, she said, did I appreciate all of this? Was I present with my kids? Are my kids still as involved in my life? She said, I want to be surrounded by my kids, my family, my grandbabies, and I want to make sure I do all of the things that make them want to come and be close to me and my husband. I love it.
So sweet.
And then she kept saying, every single thing that she said, I was like, yeah, I agree. So she kept going and said, am I someone my kids want to be around? Our kids are going to grow up one day and they'll realize exactly who we are. So I want to make sure that they can look at me and say, wow, my mom really is who she said she was.
So good.
That one smacked me in the face.
It's so good though. But it's so true.
So good and so true. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we do things in front of kids thinking, oh, they're just kids. But one day they're gonna be adults and they're going to look back and...
Yeah, they'll know.
They'll know. So...
Yeah.
That's be crazy. Who you say you are. Yeah.
See, another thing to go on my mirror that I have to just write down so I can look at it every day.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's be who your kid thinks you are.
Yeah.
So sweet. So good. So obviously her answers were really good to those. And if that's any indicator, you are going to love, love, love the rest of the episode.
Yeah, so stick around.
Stick around. You want to hear all of this.
Before we jump into today's episode, we did want to let you guys know that this will be a heavy-hearted episode. We're talking about some deep stuff. So just a fair warning here, if you have little ones listening, you may want to save this one for later. Thank you guys so much, and sorry for the technical difficulties. We are so disappointed, but the episode is so good. So enjoy this episode.
So we are touching on grief and infant loss. Christina, would you be willing to talk? I mean, we're talking about your son, Canon. Mm-hmm. And I know there were some medical things starting out. Would you be willing to kind of start there and tell us your story?
So I was 20 years old when I found out that I was pregnant with my second baby. I was really excited, obviously. And my life was just very different than what it is now. I had my daughter who was 2 years old, and I'll just say it was about to just be us pretty soon, like me and my kids. I was living out in Kansas at this time. I'm from North Carolina. My best friend surprised me with an ultrasound with a 4D ultrasound, because we had just found out I was pregnant. We were super excited. Well, I guess we didn't just find out. I would have been 17 or 18 weeks at this point. I go in there and it just all seemed really, really great. The whole day was really great. I found out that I was actually having a girl, and we were super excited. But me and my mom, this is kind of like a funny little thing. Me and my mom were like, I just don't think that's right. Like, I think that it just feels like I'm going to have a boy. That intuition was strong. It was strong. Like, I really knew it just did not feel right. I have an appointment like a week later at my regular OB, and they let me know that the ultrasound tech actually reached out to my OB and told her that they needed to look into something. I had no idea. Like, those 3D ultrasound techs aren't allowed, like, especially when they're like their own little thing. They're not doctors, but they're able to find things, but they can't like let you know that. They let me know that the ultrasound tech had found something or was suspicious of something, and they weren't sure what it was, but wanted them to check. So they told me that they didn't see anything wrong. They verified that I was having a girl, and then they were like, but if you want to just like be safe, you can go to Wilmington and you can have like a more thorough imaging scan and all that stuff done. And I was like, absolutely, like I would just rather go just to be safe. And plus at the time, I'm honestly like, I'll go get another ultrasound of my baby, like, another chance to see him. That's kind of where, like, if I'm being honest, that's like really what I was looking forward to. I didn't really think, because they had just told me that, it was okay. So I go to Wilmington, and my mom lives in Wilmington. And then that was the day that I got like literally the worst news of my whole life. So they told me it was like forever. And I was like, is it a boy? Or I was like, it's a boy, isn't it? Because like me and my mom knew that it was a boy. I was like, it's a boy, isn't it? Like I knew, because they were taking forever. And my best friend came too. And I think my best friend, I don't know, Cassie was there in the mix. Either my best friend had her outside waiting, or she was in there at that point. And so they were like, I can't say anything right now, but they're going to talk to you afterwards, blah, 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 blah. And they're just going on and on, looking really thoroughly. And they pulled me into a room, and it had been a little bit, and they had pulled me into a room, and they told me that he had several issues, from his heart to a hernia in his chest. I can't think of the right medical term, but something back here like was maybe thick or something like that could indicate, Down syndrome or something like that. And then something pretty private, so I don't know that I'll really say it right now, but there was a reason that we couldn't figure out if he was a boy or a girl at the time because of some medical issues. And so they told me that he wasn't going to be making it to term, that I was going to have some serious decisions to make. I'm a Christian at this point too, like I'm a total believer, but like totally mixed up as well, because like not mixed up with God. Okay, I want to make that clear. It wasn't a faith problem, but it was a decision-making problem. What did I really believe was the right thing to do? Because they're telling me that he'll be in pain because of it's a diaphragmatic hernia. He'll be in pain because of that, because what happens is all of like his stomach, all of his organs move up into his chest, and they crowd his heart, and then they stop his lungs from developing. So that was like a really big problem. They couldn't tell me how much of his lungs were going to be there or what was going to happen with his heart exactly at that time, but, it wasn't good. That was the reality, that he probably wasn't going to make it to term, and he was definitely not going to make it after. They told me that my options were to abort, and really highly, they can't tell you, they're not supposed to tell you to go abort your child, but it was very highly encouraged to do that. It was like just what made sense. And I had never really, like, abortion has really blown up into like, the big political thing now. So like it's what like everybody's talking about it just about. But at that time, maybe I just wasn't as involved in like the political stuff and whatever, and just was a little naive or, ignorant to that stuff. But I knew it was wrong. I never ever wanted to do anything like that. But at that point, that looked like that was my best chance at not making him go through pain. Okay.
Yeah.
Going through a divorce at this time and moving at this time, being a newly single mom and making these decisions on your own, like that's important to remember too for my story, because I had a lot of support from like my friends and my family, but God is he's everything in my story, because it was every single step of it was a God thing. Every single step of it was that. And you'll see that the more I tell you, because when they told me to abort, okay, or when they suggested it, that seemed to be like the only thing I obviously thought of for, the next few days and weeks ahead. And that's important to know too. I was 17 or 18 weeks at this time. He's a baby. Like, I mean, they are always, but like,
I'm like, that's a whole
he's
kid.
got the arms, the legs, the head, like it's all like, it's not saying it's okay at 4 weeks either. I don't support it at all, but I'm just saying like we're dealing, like that's the reality right now that I'm facing.
Totally.
And so I'm like, okay, like I'm thinking on this, but like I'm about to be making that decision. And my mom did not feel good about it, obviously. I didn't feel good about it either. I didn't want to do that. I wanted this baby, like no matter how hard life was going to be as a single mom, like that was my baby. I was going to do whatever I had to do. And so the next step was to go to Chapel Hill, which is like a much bigger place. So just moving forward, like obviously I was an emotional train wreck for that time. Going to Chapel Hill, okay, like maybe a week later. So now I'm like 18 or 19 weeks, guys. Okay, like that's a pretty big deal. I'm planning on having an ultrasound again to see this baby. Oh, okay, and we sent off genetic testing as well, okay? That's important to know, because that's when I find out if I'm having a boy or a girl. We go and get a hotel, we go the next morning, and I'm going to be getting an ultrasound, and then, like, if there's no hope, then if nothing changes, nobody sees anything different, because I wanted a second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion. I was going to be seeing, like, all these different people this day, all that. We go there early that morning, and they're just, like, ready to do it. They're actually just going to do it that morning. And I'm like, hold on, like, that was not my plan. I was not ready for that. I'm not okay with this. Me and my mom, or thank God my mom's there with me, but I'm like, I was told I was getting another ultrasound today. Like, that has to happen. They moved, they didn't have openings. They didn't blah, blah, blah. Okay. They made that happen for me to have an ultrasound that day. And I was like, and if that was going to happen, then they weren't going to be able to fit me in, because they only do abortions on Tuesdays and blah, blah, blah. I go through all these meetings and genetic counselors, all this stuff. And I asked the woman, and I'm like, the genetic counselor, I'm like, if it was you, would you do it? And she told me that she can't say, but if it was her, that she would do it. Okay? She would have an abortion because of how things looked with my son. Now I'm like, I have to do this. It's the right thing to do. They give me a I don't want to say a pamphlet, but kind of like a book, but it's just a bunch of pages. It's not an actual book, of all these families who wanted their baby but had medical problems where they had to abort because they had there's a lot of different things that the children had, but you get the point with all these heartbroken families is what I was reading about. So I obviously read them, and it's to give you comfort for what you're about to do, and we go to church that next Sunday, and my mom, and I used to drive 2 hours to go to Wilmington to go to church with my mom. That's how 2 hours there, 2 hours back. Loved going. It was a big church. You stand in line and you've got to talk to this pastor. We really liked him though. And she was she begged me to go talk to him before we went and made that final decision. Yeah. And I was like, Mom, I really don't want to do that. Obviously I felt shame in it. Obviously I didn't want to do it, right. But I knew that I had to do that. It was the right thing, right? And so she's like, Christina, if you will go, I will do all the talking. I'll explain, blah, blah, blah. So we go up there, And she starts talking, and then I, of course, end up telling him everything that's going on. And he told me that in no circumstances is God wanting me to do that. And that if I would just do what right by God, that I would be blessed beyond measure later down the road. And he gave me that advice. And then the next day or the day after that, I'm at the hotel, and I get a call from whoever had the whoever did the testing for his genetic testing and all that. He didn't have Down syndrome, and he didn't have another thing that's really important, and he was a boy. And I'm like, Mom, he's a boy. Like, I knew.
Like, we just knew this.
I knew he was a boy. And I don't know, like, if it was a girl, obviously would have been just as significant and mattered. Like, I don't know. But it was just the fact that, like, I knew I was supposed to have my boy at that time. And so for whatever reason, that was just such a big deal. I already knew his name and all that stuff. Like, it was going to be Canon. And I would have canceled the appointment if it was a girl too, right? But I just felt like that was such a big sign for me. And I don't want to, like, I hate to even say it like that because I don't want it to sound like a boy versus a girl or anything like that. Like,
no, I think
it wouldn't
it's
have
the
mattered.
fact that
I knew.
You knew it was
like,
a boy,
my
and everyone was
intuition.
telling you it was a girl, and you were like,
Yeah.
no. So it's like that sign from God that,
Yeah.
like, it
And,
is
like,
the boy that you...
And everybody's
yeah.
telling me to abort, and everybody's telling me
Yeah.
this. And, like, I just felt like, I think just something in that moment made me feel like I needed to do what Christina knew was best, not necessarily what the doctors were telling me to do.
Yeah.
They were gonna, like, they give you the option of stopping the heartbeat. Like, they'll put a needle through your stomach and stop the heartbeat first before they rip him limb by limb.
Yeah.
That's the reality that everybody was encouraging me to do, was they'll go in and rip his limbs off through, me, and then I would have the rest of him. That's the reality that they encourage girls to do. Very lost women, very lost families. That's the reality that they're being encouraged, making them feel like it's the only option and all that, right? So, I mean, obviously I have anger inside of me from that, because how many, and people are like, I've had conversations with, like, no, I would never have done that in your shoes or any shoes. Like, I would never have considered that. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But you don't know how other people feel. Not everybody's been raised in a Christian home upbringing and all that stuff. Like, not everybody gets all of that. I was really lost. I was a believer, and I was very lost. I was just desperate for doing the right thing. I wasn't wanting to take a life. I wasn't wanting to do any of that, but I was so confused and lost. How many other people are like that?
Yeah.
When it sounds like it's like
The best
the compassionate
option.
thing to do
Yeah,
too, is like, no, your
yes.
kid's gonna suffer big
Yes,
time.
exactly, yeah.
Like who wouldn't consider, like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Like,
so
I
I
don't know medical, so I don't know what
no,
the
and so
right
if these
thing to do,
professionals
so-
are saying, hey, like, this
Exactly.
truly is the best
Exactly,
option, like,
yeah.
you need to consider this,
Of
like,
course
of
you're gonna
course you
consider that.
consider
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Especially in
Yeah.
that vulnerable
Yeah.
20-year-old
Oh,
stage.
Desperate.
20-year-old,
Desperate,
like-
yeah. Do you know how terrifying that is? Like, that one decision away from the rest of my life feeling a
That's
certain way.
crazy.
That is crazy. Yes.
So you're there, you decide it's not gonna happen.
It's not going to happen. They take me instead. We're going a different route. We are actually going to prepare for this baby to come and make it. And he's probably not going to make it. His heart is weak. His heart, it's got a lot of complications. Like, it's not pumping the right direction, and it's not doing this and that. And what do we need to be prepared for? Get him to live is what we're doing. I wanted to know, if I'm able to get here for this baby. It's hours away from my home, okay?
Yeah.
That's important to remember. And, if he makes it to term, where is he going to be? I go and I see the NICU that day. I go and I talk. I think we look into his heart again and just different things, right? We're talking about different stuff. Not talking about abortion, though, at this point, or at all anymore. The next several months, I am now growing a baby. I'm going to Wilmington and Chapel Hill now. I'm having to go to several appointments, and every week there's an appointment a couple hours away to like 3 hours away from my house. The stress of all of that is weighing pretty heavy. I'm still going to church every Sunday, 2 hours one way, 2 hours back. So, like, I'm a busy woman at this time, right? And I'm just really trying to, get my child to birth. That's the goal, is to get him to birth. They're not thinking he's going to make it. So I have some more appointments, and one of these appointments, it really stood out. I was feeling hopeful for whatever reason, and then the news was that it's actually worse and his heart is looking weaker. It could stop, and it probably will stop before I even get to that point. I have another trip, and they're still studying his heart. The biggest thing too, the biggest thing is like, is there going to be room for him to have his for his lungs to develop? That's like the thing. If he doesn't have his lungs, it's not going to happen. He just needed time, and he needed, a miracle. And, so I just keep going, obviously. And, I end up feeling like I'm going into labor, and I had gone into labor. I had preterm labor with Cassie at like 34 weeks or something like that. And then I had her at 37 weeks. So like, that's in my history. So, I mean, I'm pretty nervous, And so at 36 weeks and some days, I feel like I'm going to have him pretty soon. Like, I'm having contractions and that sort of thing. So we actually they end up sending me home a day shy of 37 weeks. And I felt fine. They said I was fine. So, I felt okay about it. And the next morning I go and I take my daughter to daycare, and then I come back. And there was a reason she was in daycare too. Like, it was, my best friend worked there, and there was an opening, and it was a really nice daycare. And so I had just literally gotten her in there, and I come back home, and I get up I wasn't even really napping, but I was laying there, and I get up and my water breaks, and I am not near that hospital. I am hours away from that hospital, and my water breaks all over the place. Okay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what, the time, like, is obviously here, but like, and then it's like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? Like, what's going to happen, And I did have a calmness about me that day, right? For whatever reason. And so I obviously call my grandma's there, and she is like, she does not have a calmness about her that day. Yeah. She's not very calm, She calls 911, and that was the right thing to do. And so I go in, and my dad, I obviously call my dad. I call my mom. She's on her way from Wilmington. All my brothers know. All my best friends know. Like, I'm going to the closest hospital. And it's not a bad hospital, but it's not Chapel Hill Hospital. Yeah. They don't have all the things that Chapel Hill has to be able to care for a baby like this in this condition, okay? And so I'm hopeful still. I don't really know what it's going to be. But, I'm about to meet my baby, too. He wasn't supposed to be here at all. And so what else is going to happen now? Like, how far is God going to take us, And so, like I said, feeling hopeful. I'm in the ambulance. They do my IV wrong a few times, and that was just terrible. And, now I'm in the hospital, and my contractions are getting bad, and they have to redo my IV. And now I'm on, like, all fours on this bed because his heart rate's doing something crazy, and it's just crazy. And so, not because of me, but because of him, I had to choose if I wanted to do a C-section and just give him any chance there was. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about the best nurses in the world? I had them that day. I had them that day by my side. They were there for me for a reason that day. Nothing was really working, so I had to do a C-section. And I'm by myself at this point. I don't think my dad did come at this point. I remember him being there and me asking for him when I woke up, but my dad was there when I was about to be taken back. And they rushed me to have a C-section, and then next thing I know, I'm like counting, and my dad's still there, and next thing I know, I'm out, and I wake up, and I'm obviously like, well, at first I'm like, where's my dad? Because like I need to know what's going on, but like I'm also terrified to know what's happened because I've just woken up, and how long has it been, and all that.
Yeah, you're like, do I even ask?
Yeah. And so I find out he's here, and he's breathing not on his own. He's not breathing on his own. He has a ventilator, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, get me there. Like, I need to be there. Like, I need to go. I just woke up from a C-section. I'm not in any way able to just get up. I mean, I'll, some adrenaline, but So like how I just said I had the best nurses in the world that day. One of the nurses, who I won't say because I would never want to get her in trouble, but I don't think she ever could get in trouble because like she's actually a hero for this, but we couldn't get my bed through the door. So she picks me up and carries me to my son and puts me in a wheelchair or a chair. I'm sitting there and I get to see my son, and he has like all the stuff on him, and he's covered up like with a blanket, and they put him in my arms, and I didn't know what was going to happen from there. I didn't know how serious, or I mean, obviously it was serious, but I didn't know what the outcome was going to be still. Yeah. And I hear the doctor say that it's getting, like it's going to happen, what I don't want to happen, obviously. And my whole family is right there. My whole family. They let my whole family and my brothers. Everyone got to see him and hold my shoulder, and just that just was so meaningful to me to just have that support there, obviously. And they take the machine off of him and the wires out of his nose and all that stuff. And now the doctor is checking his pulse, and it's, getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And I was okay. I was actually okay, though. I don't know how I was okay, but I was okay. Like, I was holding my son, and I don't know if it was just, like, too unbelievable, like, for me to actually realize what was happening, or if I was just okay. Like, if I just had that peace about what was happening, because, let me finish this part first, I guess. They end up telling me that he's passed, and in my arms. It was no struggle. There was no struggle. He was laying there, and he just slowly stopped breathing, and that was it. At the closest hospital, where none of that was planned, that was not supposed to happen in my book. Having him there that day, like, that's why I've told you guys, like, is it sad? Of course it's so sad, but, like, that was the most incredible day of my life, where I got to see God over and over and over and over, because none of that stuff was supposed to happen that way. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. But it was. It wasn't because of, because that wasn't my plan, but that was his plan. And my whole family, I hate saying that. I love all of my family that probably keeps hearing me say that, and I'm so sorry. But my family that could be there, they were there, and I had that support that I needed. And, it gets better, actually. He passes, and then he gets a bath, and I didn't get to give him the bath, but, the wonderful nurses gave him a bath, and I went and probably got myself situated, and there's called a coddle cot, or is it coddle cot? Is that what
I don't
it's
remember
called?
the name, but the little cots that they put them in.
Yeah, so it's it's ice, and it preserves their body to be able to hold them. And so they brought him to me, and I was able to sit in a chair and hold him for hours and hours and hours and hours, and my family could hold him. Cassie got to hold him. Everybody got to hold him that was there. And he was the most beautiful thing, and didn't look like anything was wrong with him. Like, he looked perfect. Like, you would never know. And that thing, the cot, whatever it's called, I wish I could know what it was called, because every hospital needs them.
I know a lot of, like, parents that lose babies will donate, like, money so that hospitals can have them.
And then that next morning, reality was coming, full circle, and we all got to say our goodbyes. The funeral home came, and, that was a really, 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 really difficult thing for me, because that was it. That was it. There was never going to be a time that I would hold him ever again, or, have him here. So, and we did plan to have a service for him, so I would get to lay eyes on him again. But that was that was going to be it for me holding him. And that was when, you know, you almost get to like play house at first. Like, that's my baby. I get to, you know, be with him. But then when that other when the actual real reality comes to, you know, you're not taking him home. He doesn't get to stay. And my brothers and my dad, they took him over to another room, and my brothers and my dad got to say bye to him. And I think that was just easier for them to, like, instead of, you know, strangers taking him out, I think that my dad doing that and my brothers, I think that helped me in a way. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
Don't apologize.
I never thought of that till just now, actually, that they probably did that on purpose for me.
They needed to be there that day.
Yeah. So it was hard on everybody, but, you know, they were definitely strong for me. Then my dad said, you know, you're gonna have to go shower. Not like right then either, obviously. I'm not sure. I don't think I stayed another day. I think it was just like that had happened that morning, and then later, like, it had been a while. Like, I was not leaving. I just was like visiting and just staying in that room, and like I guess I was just planning on staying there. I don't really know, because I wasn't moving. And so, like, it was definitely time for me to, like, get my things and start, you know, thinking about leaving. And I just remember my dad being like, then I'm kind of like, oh, yeah, I guess so. And so I obviously ended up eventually going, and I had the best doctors and nurses, and everybody, you know, came in and visited me too. And, you know, they just obviously complimented my strength and all that good stuff that God literally gave me, because that was the only way I had that. But then, you know, days later, not weeks, oh my goodness, but not a week later, but days later, and both of my sisters-in-law helped put the most beautiful service together, and I'm sure there were others involved in that as well that made it what it was. And then we had an actual funeral for him, and it was perfect. It was all perfect. But the thing that I really want to make clear through my story is that that's the hardest situation that someone can go through. Like, that's the hardest thing that I'll ever face in my whole life. Yeah. And through that, the hardest thing ever, what I've learned is, you know, just doing what God wanted me to do. I guess, like the pastor said, really, you know, letting him have it, even through the hard and the tough times, letting him have it, and just letting it, just, because I could have never done that. I could have never planned that out, but he did, and he had control over all of that. You know, and that's why I say, like, it is the saddest story, right? But it is the best story too, because it shows what he can do in your life. Like, I almost aborted my beautiful, perfect baby, and I would have never met him or had that moment with him.
I think
that, like, if you've had an abortion, I think that God can, you know, he redeems. So you're not always, there's forgiveness, you know. Absolutely. There's forgiveness in that. I'm not saying when I'm about to say what I'm about to say, I'm not implying that you should hate yourself for what you've done, you know. That's a very hard thing to live with if you've made that mistake. But if I would have taken things into my own hand, I don't know how I would feel with myself. You know, like, I have strength and I have wisdom from that, and I have, a whole lot of grief and a whole lot of ups and downs, and there's been a lot of things that have come from this too, like some really dark times for me, but what God has given me through this, there's no comparison to that. when you think of if I would have taken things in my own hands, I wouldn't have this story. I'd have shame. I'd have guilt forever.
Right.
Forever. Like, I got to see my baby with all his arms, all his legs, all together. My family was there. And I say that way because it's terrible. And it is terrible, and it should be said because that's the reality.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're doing when, you're far enough along. Like, that's the reality of that. And I would say this to families, like, if there was a family whose story that I read in that book, I just want to make it clear that I recognize that you did what you thought was best. And it is not your fault for trusting in a worldly perspective from these doctors that did not lead you in the right direction. Because all a parent in that position wants is to do the right thing and to not put their baby through pain and to save them. And sometimes, like, those families that I read their stories, they wanted their baby. They were trying for their babies. They were absolutely crushed. They're still grieving their babies too, even though they chose that route.
Yeah.
But for someone who might face this in the future, somebody in a similar position that I was in, I would just say that I would, even if you're not a believer, I would really encourage you to figure that out. I always say, like, if there's ever been a doubt for me or a question that I've had that I felt like God didn't make sense, it's because I didn't know the whole story. I didn't know enough about it. Because anytime I've ever dug in or I've gotten advice or anything like that, I have it's always made sense. It's always come full circle, and it's always made sense. Yeah. So if you can't prove something with God, it's because you need to keep seeking him, and you need to seek the truth and keep digging until you find it, because it's there.
So one thing, like, the whole time you were talking, the thing that kept, like, really, really sticking out to me was, like, how many steps of faith there were, and then how many mini miracles there were the whole time. Like, even, like, you talked about your daughter getting into your friend's daycare that was a good daycare, and, like, you're not like concerned, and then like having her be there with your friend, because I'm assuming your friend then got to take care of her. Like, and so I just was thinking about, like, every tiny miracle that happened along
Yes, that's so true.
your route here, like, and that's just so incredible to me.
And those little things too, if you pay attention, they're all over our lives all the time. All the time. You just have to be willing to look at them and call them what they are. Like, this is, like, kind of random, but, like, something was just going on with my mom, and I was thinking, like, I had trouble praying for it. I'm not going to lie. I would talk to God about it, and, I mean, I guess that's kind of a prayer, but I mean, I had a hard time with it. Because it's scary, and sometimes you don't always want, like, I just sat here and told you, like, as hard as all that was, like, God knew what he was doing the whole time, but sometimes you don't want to lose your family member, and so my point is that, like, even though I know God's got it, I don't always love the outcome. Like, sometimes it is scary, So
it's like, that might be his plan, but it's not my plan.
Exactly.
Like,
but
totally.
Like, even though his plan is so much better than mine, and I just got to see that, and, like, I'm reminded of that all the time. Sometimes it's still painful to get through.
It's so hard to give up like that.
Yeah. So when my mom got some good feedback from the doctor recently, you're almost like, was it, like, because I talked to God about it and prayed, and, like, it's, God's answering that? Or are we just, like, so quick to just be like, oh, like, okay, great, like, it worked out? Like, we almost a lot of the time go with that route because, like, maybe it really was never going to be that way, but, like, maybe, just maybe, God really does listen to every single prayer, and he really does answer that. Like, he really did answer that for me instead of, that's kind of a hard thing for me to explain, I guess.
Like, every single time I've gone through something hard, like, like, I finally get to the point where I'm, like, willing to pray about it, and then, like, things work out, or, like, things don't work out how I wanted them to, but, like, something still happens, and so I'm like, is it
Because I prayed, or is it because like it was
Yeah,
just
or I'm
gonna
like,
be that
is it
way?
him like forcing us to like do the thing? Like, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Is it him being
Yeah.
like, hey, like just
Yeah.
come talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm still here. Like things are
Yeah.
getting really hard for you. Like now's a really good time to chat about it. Like
Yeah. That actually happened. So this is a big thing, okay, guys. So I had the funeral for Canon. I obviously was dealing with a lot of grief. I was trying to find a job, and I did. I worked a couple of different places actually. I'm raising Cass. You know, I'm now starting to drink. I'm starting to drink, and I'm starting to go out with my friends, and I'm starting to numb the pain in some pretty crappy ways. And I'm not myself. Like, I was never a drinker or a partier or anything like that. My best friend helped me a lot with Cass, and she was always in great hands. But I was not me. Like, I was not the girl that just, like, completely relied on God and was, you know, someone that I was proud of or anything. I was running away from my reality is what it is. And so I was going through all that, and I still was chasing God, but I wasn't doing what God wanted me to do. Okay. Like I still was talking to him. I was, you know, I was baptized. I was saved and baptized during this really hard time. And that's a really difficult time for me to, like, I try to reflect on that because he showed me a lot of grace in those months where I was struggling after all of that and just trying to figure out my new norm and all that. And so I lived in Emerald Isle, or I lived near Emerald Isle, and, you know, that's where I would hang out a lot. And Weston went on he lived in West Virginia, and he went on a trip with his friends. And we ran into each other, and I was just talking to, like, one of the girlfriends in the group, and we, you know, we hung out for a little bit this evening, and you know, the whole group was there, and, you know, I thought Weston was cute, but, like, you know, he was from West Virginia, like I wasn't, you know. Right. And he was cute, but he was in West Virginia, okay, just to be clear. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just a friend, you know, we were just hanging out, and then just a little, you know, we got in touch. Me and her name is Cassie, which is funny because we bonded over, like, oh my gosh, my daughter's name is Cassie, and she was Cassie, and blah blah blah. She's super sweet though, and I think me and Weston started. He reached out, or however it worked out, on one of the social medias, and, you know, we started talking every single day, like every single day. I confided.
He must have
in
thought
him.
you were cute too.
He thought I was cute too. I'm just saying. And just became friends. Like, just became friends, and was truly what I needed so bad. Like, and he's a very wise, like, he's a person that you would consider like an old soul. Like, he's just a very wise guy who just far beyond his years, and just was that strong person that I really needed. And so, like I said, just friends, and it obviously gradually turned into something, because then he came back to visit me, and then I surprised him, and then he came back, and then I moved here in, like, not even 6 months. And that's honestly the short version of our story. But when that pastor told me that I would be blessed down the road if I would just listen, like, the whole journey with Canon, was a huge blessing, the way that all of that worked out. But, you know, and he's adopted Cassie, and he's all Cassie knows, and we have 2 beautiful boys now together. And I've said this to several people, like, Weston is someone that, like, I would describe him as, like, my brick wall, someone I could just lean on. I did move here very quickly in reality, like
6 months.
Not even 6 months. Yeah. Like, to pick up my daughter. Like, I knew, I really knew I wouldn't have just done that for anybody. Like, I knew. And I think it really helped to just become super close friends first, you know, and build on that. And that's been like the foundation of us. Like he always has said, and he's taught me so much. Oh my gosh, he's taught me so much. But like the important thing for us is to be friends first. And that's why we are the way we are together. We are friends now first. And like, I'm not like the mean bossy wife, you know. He's not like, we're friends. Like we like each other, you know, and I obviously adore him and love him so much, but he was that person that God gave me when I needed him more than anything. Like that was a really dark path that I was on, and just so far from who I was before, just so far from her. And now I'm not the same mom that I was before, you know, and there's some shame in that when like that in that phase of life that I was in after I lost Canon, I wasn't who I was proud of, you know, even for Cass. And, you know, I had doctors telling me I needed the depression medicine, that sort of thing was happening. And, you know, I was fighting a lot of battles there, but when he came in my life, I knew that was part of that God was giving me. And, you know, he has a wonderful family here, and my kids have all their cousins from his side, you know, and I wish I could visit my home more, obviously, but yeah, I mean, that's just what God can do for you when you just, and sometimes, thank God, he doesn't give you a choice too in the matter. Like sometimes he really just kicks you where you need to be. And I'm really grateful for that as well. So, because I could have never chosen all of this for myself. I could have never done it on my own. That's proof enough that he's here, that he's real, you know.
I also think it's cool that like you being able to hold your baby, like that would have been enough for you.
Yeah.
But then also like, and this thing and meeting him and having a good family and like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like all the bonuses.
Yeah.
So obviously along the way there was so many little miracles in your story, but this is going to be kind of a weird question, but I feel like for listeners out there that maybe don't have faith in God, or could look at your story and say, how do you trust in God so much and say that this was, you know, him delivering a miracle when Canon's not here with you? Like, what would you say to those people?
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I'm so glad you had the guts to ask that, actually, because that was probably one of the nerve-wracking ones. I feel like Canon is not here with me right now, but I will be with him for sure someday, and I rest in knowing that. I know that it was God, because there has been, you cannot hear my story, you cannot truly hear all that I have had to say and not see his hand in it.
Right.
And I know myself, and I know there is no way that I could have ever had that type of strength or that wisdom that I had to do the things and make the decisions that I made. You know, I think that when we allow him to just, even when you don't like it, when you don't like his answers, when you are scared of him and, you know, the answer you might get, even when you put your trust in that, putting your trust in that, to be clear, is not you liking it or it's just knowing that it is gonna work out. It is because he is who he says he is, and you cannot prove that wrong. That's why I said, like in the beginning, if there's ever been, and my whole story has helped me get to that point. If there's ever been a time that you question him or that you don't understand him and you didn't come up with an answer to make you feel better about it, it's because you're not done seeking the answer, and it hasn't come full circle, and you don't truly know all of it yet. You just don't have the answer yet, you know, because you can't disprove him. Even science, when you dig into science enough, it still proves him to be real. So I think, you know, I think that's it. I think that he might not be here, but I don't rest in knowing that I'm going to see him someday because it makes me feel better either. I rest in knowing that because it's what God says. I'm just grateful. I'll just say this. I'm just grateful that the mom that had the baby, and that I do know that for certain. Another thing that, like, and I think I've even said this to you guys maybe before, like on our FaceTime, but like something that I struggle with a lot, and that that I know grieving moms have this in common. It's, you know, when you have more children, you don't like you look at your children that are here with you and you're like, I can't imagine losing them. Like, I love them so much, but you know how much, then it's like the reality that like, I loved that baby like I love these babies here, you know? So like, that's a hard thing. And like, just whenever, you know, moms, like, how, you're in the grocery store, how many kids do you have? You know, you're like, at first I would be like, I have 4, you know, or like, I didn't know how to answer it. Like, I have 4. Oh, you know, like, or, and then like, it's weird if you're like, I have 4, but one's in, you know, I used to think like, I wish I could say like one's in a different time zone. That was one thing that I came up with in my head, like to make me kind of feel like I was never leaving him out. Because you feel torn. You're like,
do I give you the long version or the short version?
Yeah, and like then you get to see their reactions and you're like, oh, like I don't want to do that to them. But like, how do you include all your babies, you know? It's just, that's just something that, I don't know, like if a grieving mom was listening, that, you know, it kind of, those things help to not, like those things help to hear, so that you know that you really aren't alone in that.
Yeah.
And you want to share, but you don't want, like, you share and you see those reactions and you learn really fast that like you're actually, you know, it gets uncomfortable for people. So, you know, having something like this where you guys are just like, can I ask the questions? Can I, you know, that, like, yes, please, like, finally somebody feels comfortable doing that, you know, like I want to tell the world about him. He's everything to me.
You had mentioned like you were doing some things, like maybe you weren't the mom you wanted to be. Yeah. What was your turning point?
When Weston gave me the ultimatum, when it was like, is this who I am, or am I this person that he knows I am? And that's vulnerable. Like, that's not a pretty thing to say on a podcast. That's like really not something that's going to make me look good. That was it. When I tell you that God literally put him in my life, he picked me up and became my best friend. He didn't become my God. You know, he didn't become like a man I worshiped or anything, but he was placed in my life and got me out of a really dark place because God put him there. Yeah. You know, that was it for me. That's incredible. He wanted to be with me, but he couldn't watch me self-destruct either. And so he had to do the hard thing. And he knew I had Cass and loved Cass and wanted to be there for us. But I had to let him. Yes,
yeah,
it is.
That's like, so the fact that he was in your life.
That's like the bit, like not the biggest part of my story maybe, but that's a really big part of my story.
It's a turning point for a reason.
Yeah. He's stayed that brick wall for me. And I mean, I don't know, like, he had never been married, you know, I mean, he had relationships and stuff, but like a child that he was fully ready for with no doubt about it.
Yeah. And
a grieving, not just like a single mom, you know, who works too hard, he loves kids. A grieving mom that had a lot of pain inside of her, that was going through a lot of different things and figuring out a lot of different things, and he was ready for it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool, like, when we meet the people who can, like, see our potential before we can.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like he saw so much in you. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
And really just allowed me to be me, and didn't add pressure to me, just was there. And he took so much weight off of me too. Like, I mean, he saved me in a lot of different ways. He allowed me to be, because he is such a hardworking person himself, and, you know, truly just wanted me and Cass to have the best. And I had a past, you know, I had mentioned like that past relationship, like the world gave me a perspective that I should have never put in all of my, you know, all of, what is the saying? Like
don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. I almost said chicken, so I'm glad you finished that for me. But yeah, don't put all your chickens
together
in there either. But why? What reason did I have to trust that? I just knew. Like, I really did just know. I did. I would have never, I mean, I'm protective of Cass. Like, I would have never put her in harm's way or anything like that, you know, but somebody from the outside seeing me move states away with a guy, you know,
Like that would feel questionable.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That
like,
was a crazy thing to
okay?
do, you know, but I knew. I don't know how to explain it. It kind of goes back to your question too. Like, but I just knew, and God's never failed me, you know, and that hard circumstance and you know, Canon isn't here, but he's never failed me. You know, he gave me Canon. He gave me Canon. Now I get to look forward to having him for eternity now, you know? So if I had to go through all of what I went through again to have him again, I would absolutely go through all of that again.
Is there anything that you as a family do to remember Canon today?
So it's different. What we like to do is I spread his ashes at the beach. And at this time, I was like, I'm going to spread his ashes at the beach and it was, to be honest, I did that at a time that I really wasn't ready to do that. I think I was just desperate for some sort of peace, and I did it too early.
Some kind of closure.
Yeah. And I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I did it more, like I said, just out of desperation and more, you know, I just wasn't ready for it. But I did that, and I have to live with that. And when I did it at the beach, and my thought process was, I'll always live at the beach. So, like, you know, whether I'm in Florida or I'm here or wherever, you know, I will always be able to come back to the water and, you know, celebrate him. And, you know, now I live in West Virginia. That was not in the cards. I told you, it's never
nowhere near the beach.
It's gonna go. Yeah, it's never the way that I think it's gonna be. But I did that. So what I really, if it worked out every single year the way that I would love for it to, the plan is usually to get roses and go throw them in the water where I spread his ashes at the point. And it's like the most beautiful place in Emerald. I love the place that we chose.
No, I love that you guys have something that you do just to remember him and like keep him close to you. And that's really cool.
Yeah. And that I think that's something that we'll always go back to do. Like, you know, I think it's just a very simple and easy and nice way to do that, you know, and if we decide to change it down the road and do a little something more, whatever, but there will always be something like that for him. Yeah. And my kids all have their own interest in him. Waylon is really drawn to him. He's, you know, my rainbow baby, my baby that I had after him. And he's just always had, like, he'll go, like, even today, he will go and get rocks outside and bring them in and put them on our mantle for him.
Oh, that's cute.
And I've never, like, coached that. I've never, like, pushed that on him or anything. It's just, and it means the world because it just comes natural to him to be that way. Just stuff like that obviously, you know, would make any mom feel good that their baby is still, you know, part of, you know, still is special to them, you know?
Yeah.
So.
I love that. Well, and we're thankful that, like, you're willing to talk about it because, like, it is such a tough subject that, like, a lot of people don't want to talk about it. Maybe they're not ready yet.
Yeah.
And so I definitely think by, like, you being willing to share, maybe it can let people know that, like, they're not alone and, like, how they're feeling is not crazy.
Yeah.
And,
right. Yeah, there's no right or wrong way to feeling after this. Like, you're never going to be the same person. And you have to grieve that, too. You have to grieve that you're going to be someone new. I remember saying to my dad, like, everybody's going to know me as the woman who lost her baby now. Everybody's going to know that. Like, everybody's going to think that of me whenever they see me, you know? And that was, like, that's sad. Like, just
coming to terms with that.
Yeah, like that was, like, a hard thing for me to kind of realize, I guess, and does it matter? No, not really. Like, so what that, you know, it's not really so much like what are they going to think of me. It's just like dang, like, I don't want to be in this position. Yeah, you know, I don't want to be that person, but you know, God gave it to me for a reason, though. I don't know. I don't think he's finished using it, though. He's going to use it for the rest of my life.
Oh, wow. You're amazing.
You Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're enjoying LightHearted, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people who need a little more light in their lives.
And be sure to follow us over on Instagram at LightHearted Pod for some behind the scenes content and clips of our episodes. And be sure to check out our merch. Everything that we've been talking about will be listed below in the show notes.
And guys, if you want to support them like I know you do, don't forget to download, because I actually just learned it really helps push their podcast out to more people.
And don't forget to
Stay lighthearted.